got quite a Hawaii marathon going on right now. I just really want to get caught up. So, kind of letting my desire to get it done override my ability to read. So this is wrong. But, got the rest of the day, and I've only got, this is video number 3, so there's only 2 more after this, and we'll have 20 some odd pages, however that works out. I just want to get caught up and then have a couple talk videos, anyway, there'll be a video talking about the ideas after I'm done with the book. Alright. Buddhism and Chan talk. You say you can practice Buddhism, but don't understand Chan talk. Being able and not being able are neither different nor the same. Just realize that being able to practice is identical to Chan words. To understand Chan words, but be unable to practice Buddhism, is like a man sitting in water contemplating or complaining of thirst, or sitting in food complaining of hunger. What's the difference? You must realize that Chan words are the business of Buddhas, and the business of Buddhas is identical to Chan words. Being able to understand, being able to practice, this has to do with people, not with the Dharma. 1. Suchness. To take up this great affair, you must have a determined will. If you are half believing and half in doubt, there will be no connection. An ancient worthy said, studying the path is like drilling for fire. You still can't stop when you get to smoke. Only when sparks appear is the return home complete. Want to know where it's completed? It's the worlds of self and the worlds of others as one suchness. There's a footnote here, we go to it. When the real nature is seen, all phenomena are thus. All are one thus, or suchness. Yin Xiao quotes the scripture, the Diamond Sutra. Since thus, or so, or such, is taken as enlightened, all phenomena are thus. What thing isn't so? What thing isn't so? If one believes in one suchness, this is awakening to the basic reality, producing definitive release, entering the gate of independent mastery. When Huayin, when outside of knowledge there is no suchness which is entered by knowledge, and outside of suchness there is no knowledge which acts to realize suchness, then mind and objects are thus, and the one path is pure. Cutting it off directly. Master Jiaozhou said, for 20 years, except for the 2 meal times of gruel and rice which were mixed application, Master Zhou Jiao said, for 20 years, except for the 2 meal times of gruel and rice which were mixed application of mind. I had no other points of mixed use of mind. This is how I really act. This is not the way I read this verse in the other book, so it's confusing me how it's written here. For 20 years, except for the 2 meal times of gruel and rice, which were mixed application of mind, I had no other points of mixed use of mind. This is how I really act. Okay, in the other book he says that basically the only times he ever put his mind on worldly affairs was at the mealtime. So when I get no other time did he do that. He was just about his daily life. So, okay. Don't understand it as the Buddha Dharma or the Chan path. Impermanence is swift, the matter of birth and death important. In the world of sentient beings, things which go along with birth and death are numerous as hemp or millet, Every time you've disposed of them properly, they come back again. If you don't stick with the words birth and death on the tip of your nose, damn, I should just redo this one. This one's a bad take. If you don't stick the words birth and death on the tip of your nose as a countermeasure, then when the last day of your life arrives, your limbs will be in panic and confusion, like a crab dropped in boiling water. Then you'll finally know repentance, but too late. If you want to be direct, then cut it off immediately, starting right now. Faith. If you want to study this path, you must have settled faith, so your mind does not waver whether favorable or adverse environments are encountered. Only then do you have some direction in the path. Buddha said, faith can forever destroy the root of afflictions. Faith can focus you on the virtues of Buddhahood. Faith has no attachments to objects far removed from all difficulties. Man, I can't read punctuation. Faith has no attachment to objects, far removed from all difficulties. You get so there is no difficulty. He also said, faith can transcend the numerous roads of delusion and display the path of unexcelled liberation. In the teachings there are clear passages like the above. But how could Buddha deceive people? If you are half light and half dark, half believing and half not believing, then whenever you meet with situations and encounter circumstances, your mind produces doubt and confusion. This is mind having attachments to objects, not being able to be definite and have no doubts on this path. To destroy the root of affliction and get away from all difficulty is entirely due to a lack of settled faith and to being confused by the delusions of one's own personal existence. If you can be birthless, for a moment amidst casual origination, then without going beyond this moment, you instantly transcend the roads of delusion. What are being called roads of delusion are nothing else but the dimming of this mind, dimming this mind. Outside this mind you falsely produce all differentiated views. So this mind immediately flows along after the false differentiating thoughts, thus forming objects of delusion. If you can believe directly that this mind has definitely attained enlightenment from the beginning, and abruptly forget all your views, then the roads of delusion themselves are the route of enlightenment by which the person escapes from birth and death. Returning to Prajna. The Taoists, with their false concepts and ideas, all think of imbibing the light of the sun and moon, swallowing mists and taking vapors. Even if they could stay in the world keeping their physical forms without being afflicted by cold or heat, how could they wholly return this mind and this thought into the mist of Prajna? A former sage clearly said, "It is like a moth. It can land anywhere. It only can't land on the flames of the fire." The mind of sentient beings is also thus. It can become attached anywhere, only it can't become attached to Prajna. If from moment to moment you don't retreat from your first aspiration, but take your own mind and consciousness that are attached to the worldly, to the sensory afflictions, and bring them back into Prajna. Prajna? I don't want to say jna anymore, so it's Prajna. Then although you don't penetrate in this lifetime, when faced with the end of your life, you definitely won't be dragged into evil paths, to be reborn less than human by evil deeds. In a lifetime to come, you will appear according to the power of your aspiration in your present life, and surely receive the use of it spontaneously within Prajna. This is something definite, without a doubt. 2 roads. When the last day of your life arrives, neither love, nor power, nor riches, nor innate spirit, nor official position, nor wealth and rank will be of any use. When the vision fails, there are only the realms of two paths that appear, one and one. The paths of doing good and doing evil during your lifetime. If you've done much evil and little good, then you're swept away according to your evil deeds. If you've done much good and little evil, then you are reborn according to your good deeds as a diva or a human in the house of the 10 virtues. Once you know that these two roads are both in the province of empty illusion, then you generate a mind firm and unflinching, zealous and vigorously advancing, to transcend feelings and detach from views and penetrate through and out of birth and death. Then, on the last day of your life, the two roads, good and evil, will not be able to hold you. Release. You report that since you got back to the city, where you wear clothes and eat food and enjoy your family, where everything is as before, since you've lost the feeling of being tied down and aren't thinking of it as extraordinary, the former obstructions of your old habits have diminished and become slight. Again and again, you say you're leaping with joy. This is the result of studying Buddhism. If you are not great beyond measure, understanding 100 and handling 1,000 properly in a single laugh, then you cannot know that in our family there is indeed a subtle marvel not transmitted. Otherwise, you'll never be able to destroy the two words doubt and wrath till the end of time. It wouldn't help even if the sky became my mouth, and grass, and trees, pebbles, and stones all emitted light to help me expound the truth. Thus we believe that this thing cannot be transmitted, and cannot be studied. It requires one's own realization and enlightenment, one's own approval and stopping. Only then does one reach the end. Your one laugh right now abruptly obliterates attainment. What else is there to say? Old Yellowface, Buddha, said, "I don't cling to what sentient beings say. It's all conditioned phenomenon, empty and false. Though I don't depend on words to speak, I also don't use wordlessness to preach." What you said in your letter, that you've lost the feeling of constraint and haven't been entertaining thoughts of the extraordinary, tacitly accords with what old Yellowface said. What's identical to this talk is called enlightened talk, and apart from it is called deluded talk. My whole life I've had a great vow that I'd rather suffer the pains of hell with this body on behalf of all sentient beings than betray the Buddha Dharma with this mouth as a human sentiment and blind people's eyes. Since you've gotten to this stage and know for yourself that this thing is not obtained from others, just go on as before for a while. No need to ask any more if you understand the great Dharma or not, or if you are obstructed or not. As you go, or as you respond to potentialities, if you entertain such notions, then you're not as before. I take it that after the summer you can come back out here. This pleases me very much. If you will, or if you were still so eager, frantically seeking without respite, then this wouldn't do. Seeing the great extent of your joy in the last few days, I didn't presume to comment, fearing my words would give offense. Now that your joy has settled, I dare to point something out. With this affair, it is extremely important that you don't take it easy. To get it right, you must feel shame. Frequently, those with sharp faculties, and superior wisdom attain it without expending a lot of effort. So they think of taking it easy, and therefore don't cultivate it. Many are carried off by objects before them, so they cannot be the master. As days and months pass, they are deluded and don't turn back. Since the power in the path cannot subdue the power of their actions, delusion gets its way. They're sure to be controlled by delusive demons. When faced with the end of their lives, they won't have gained power. Be sure to remember the words of a previous day. In principle, it's sudden enlightenment, taking advantage of enlightenment to clear anything away, or everything away. In the event, phenomena are not suddenly removed, but exhausted gradually. In the event, phenomena are not suddenly removed, but exhausted gradually. Whether you're walking, standing, sitting, or laying down, you must not forget. As for all the different kinds of sayings of the ancients, don't consider them true and don't consider them false. Over a long time, as you become completely ripe, naturally you will reach silent accord with your own fundamental mind. You don't have to seek special excellence or extraordinary wonders besides. Master Xiaolo asked Matsu, what is the true meaning of the coming from the west? Matsu then knocked him down with a stick to the chest. Xiaolo was greatly enlightened. He got up, clapping his hands and laughing loudly, saying, "How extraordinary! How wonderful! Instantly, on the tip of a hair, I have understood the root source of myriad states of concentration and countless subtle meanings." Then he bowed and withdrew. Afterward, he would tell the assembly, "From the time I took Matsu's kick up until now, I haven't stopped laughing." One day, Ku Shan approached Ping. Ping knew his circumstances were ripe, so he suddenly got up, held him tight, and said, "What is it?" Opening up, Ku Shan was completely enlightened. He even forgot his comprehending mind and just raised his hand and waved, nothing more. Ping said, "Will you express some principle?" Ku Shan said, "How could there be any principle?" Having left the fifth ancestral teacher's place, Hui Ning traveled south for 2 months, and had reached the Taiyu range that divides Kayagsai from Guangdong. He was pursued by the monk Hui Ming, who was originally a general accompanied by several hundred men who wanted to seize the robe and the bowl, emblematic of succession to the ancestral teachers. Ming was the first one to overtake him. The sixth ancestral teacher threw down the robe and bowl on a rock and said, "This robe signifies faith. How can it be taken by force?" Ming tried to pick it up, the robe and bowl, but was unable to move them. At that point he said, "I have come for the Dharma, not for the robe." The ancient teacher said, "Since you have come for the Dharma, you should put to rest all your motivations and don't give rise to a single thought, and I will explain for you." After a silence he said, "Without thinking of good and without thinking of evil, at just such a time, which is your original face?" At these words, Hui Ming was greatly enlightened. He also asked, "Besides the intimate words and meaning that struck home of a moment ago, is there any further intimate message?" The ancestral teacher said, "If it were said to you, it wouldn't be intimate. If you turn around and reflect, what's intimate is in you." Ming said, "Though I was at Huangmei's, the fifth ancestral teacher's palace, I never really had insight into my own face. Now, encountering your instruction, I'm like a man drinking water who knows for himself whether it's warm or cold. Now you are my teacher, layman." Comparing the release in your one laugh with the cases of these 3 venerable adepts, which is better, which is worse? Please decide for yourself. Holy crap. Comparing the release in your one laugh. Oh wow. There are many other extraordinary, or are there any more extraordinary principles besides? If there are, then apparently you were never released and opened up. Just know how to be a Buddha. Don't worry that a Buddha won't know how to talk. Since ancient times, people who have attained the path since they were full themselves have put forth their own surplus to respond to potentials and receive beings. They are like a bright mirror on its stand, like a bright jewel in the palm of the hand. And when an outsider comes, an outsider appears, and when a native comes, a native appears. And it's not intentional. If it were intentional, then there would be a real doctrine to give to people. If you want to be clear about the great Dharma, to respond to people's potentials without getting stuck, simply go on as before for a while. No need to ask anyone else. Just go on checking yourself for a long time. As for words to report your current situation, please make note to yourself and don't say anything beyond this. For the state you're in, they'd all be superfluous words, like trailing vines. The verbal complications would be too numerous. Stop doing this for a while. Let me stop complaining your insight, or stop explaining your insights to others. Hey, that's awesome. And an ordinary fellow who understands things. Recently, it's been hot and humid. I wonder whether or not in your retreat you've been relaxed and open, and naturally so, without being disturbed by all the demons of delusion. Whether or not, within your daily activities and conduct, you've become one with the saying, "A dog has no Buddha nature." Or whether or not, you're able to make no distinction between motion and stillness. Whether or not you've merged dreaming and wakefulness, whether or not you've joined inner truth and phenomenon, whether or not, for you, mind and objects are all thus. Old Pang said, "Mind is thus, and objects are also thus. There is no true and no false. Existence doesn't concern me, nor does non-existence hold me. I'm not a holy sage, but an ordinary fellow who understands things." If you could be truly an ordinary fellow who understands things, then what mudballs are Shakyamuni and Bodhidharma? What a warm bowl of noise are the teachings of the canon of the three vehicles? When you have your own faith without doubts in this method, and it's no small matter, you must make the raw ripe and make the stale fresh, and begin to have a small share of the accord with this great matter. Gentlemen of affairs often get a glimpse in the unexpected, but lose it when things are as intended. I must let you know, when things are going according to your ideas, you must always be mindful of the times when they don't follow your intentions. Don't forget, even for a moment. Just get the root. Don't worry about the branches. Just know how to be a Buddha, and don't worry that a Buddha won't know how to talk. This one is easy to get, but hard to keep. Don't neglect it. You must make yourself correct, from head to tail, extending and fulfilling it. Then afterward, you put forth your own surplus to reach other beings.